Hello, and welcome to Sobercast. We provide AA speaker meetings and workshops in a podcast format. We are an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us be self-supporting by visiting Sobercast.com, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 into the virtual basket. Also, if you're a member of NA or have friends that are, please tell them about our other podcast, NAPOD. NAPOD features NA speakers and workshops in the same format as Sobercast. We upload a new speaker every day, and it's easy to subscribe by searching for NAPOD, N-A-P-O-D, all one word, on any podcast player app, or go to napod.xyz if you'd like to listen online. Hope you enjoy the podcast and have a great day.
Please help me open the meeting with a moment of silence followed by the Serenity Prayer. God,
grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. I have asked Chelsea to read a portion of Chapter 3 of the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous.
Hi, I'm Chelsea.
Hi, Chelsea.
More about alcoholism. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 30. We alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking. We know that no real alcoholic ever recovers control. All of us felt at times that we were regaining control, but such intervals, usually brief, inevitably followed by still less control, which led at times to physical and incomprehensible demoralization. We are convinced to demand that alcoholics of our type are in the grip of a progressive illness. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better. We are like men who have lost their legs. They never grow newer. Neither does there appear to be any kind of treatment which will make alcoholics of our kind like other men. We have tried every imaginable remedy. In some instances, there has been brief recovery, followed always by still worse relapse. Physicians who are familiar with alcoholism agree there is no such thing as making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. Science may one day accomplish this, but it hasn't done so yet. Despite all we can say, many who are real alcoholics are not going to believe they're in that class. By every form of self-deception and experimentation, they will try to prove themselves exceptions to the rule, therefore non-alcoholic. If anyone who is showing inability to control his drinking can do the right about face and drink like a gentleman, our hands are off to him. Heaven knows we have tried hard enough and long enough to drink like other people. Here are some of the methods we have tried. Drinking beer only. Limiting the number of drinks. Never drinking alone. Never drinking in the morning. Drinking only at home. Never having it in the house. Never drinking during business hours. Drinking only at parties. Switching from scotch to brandy. Drinking only natural wines. Agreeing to resign if ever drunk on the job. Taking a trip, not taking a trip. Swearing off forever. With and without a solemn oath. Taking more physical exercise. Reading inspirational books. Going to health farms and sanitariums. Accepting voluntary commitment to the asylum. We could increase the list at...
This is the speaker meeting. I'll do that in a second. Mallory will speak for 10 minutes and then turn the meeting over to our main speaker, Blair, who will share his experience, strength, and hope. Okay, so I'd like to welcome our first speaker for tonight, Mallory.
Hi everyone, I'm Mallory. I'm an alcoholic. I'm unbelievably nervous, so I hope that you guys will bear with me. My sobriety date is August 24th, 2013. I've never spoken at a meeting before. And I hate that it's this meeting, because you guys scare me, because this meeting is full of people who are so good looking, and everyone has tattoos, and I don't have any, and I've only been to jail, never prison, so I just don't. So just bear with me. I was really surprised to find myself in Alcoholics Anonymous. A little bit about my life. My mother's a minister, my father's a minister, my sister and my brother work at a church, my uncle's a minister, all 3 of my grandparents work at a church, and 2 of my cousins are ministers, and I'm a drunk. And it was a surprise. It was a surprise to all of us. Until I was 16 years old, I'd never seen anyone take a second drink, because no one in my family ever took a second drink. And the first person I saw take a second drink was me. And it was very surprising. I always thought, drinking, I don't understand it. I have no need for that. That's for different people. I'm going to be a minister too. And then someone gave me a drink, and I said, no, I'm going to do this. And it was amazing. Sometimes I hear stories, and people have unbelievably, like the kind of childhood where it's like, of course you're an alcoholic. And it was like someone turned off a switch in my head, and I was like, to my family, to everything I come from, like, how dare you feed me and clothe me and take care of me and want to know me as a human being? You're a monster. Fuck you. And it was like then I was on a mission to punish anyone who'd ever been good to me. And I did. I did that. And it got pretty bad pretty fast. I got hospitalized for the first time when I was 17. I got my first DUI when I was 21. I was so interested in controlling and managing the appearance of my drinking. I wrote my first arresting officer a thank you note on really nice stationery. I don't know if you're a stationery person, but I wrote it on crane stationery, which is like, no, I am not. Because it was so important to me that if I got a DUI, it was going to be adorable. And that's what it was like. And I drank for a solid 10 years, not a good 10 years. And I mean, you guys know what it's like to drink too much, so I'm going to try not to talk tons and tons about what that was like. But I can tell you that within a couple of years, I could not have contact with someone that didn't turn into a conflict. I got to a point where it upset me to be around someone who was doing something good. Eye contact bothered me. People who were honest bothered me. I thought they were suckers. It bothered me to be around goodness. And that's really depressing. And that was a huge part of my drinking, was about making sure that I looked the right way to the right kind of people, and I would do or say pretty much anything to make sure that I could continue to drink and use the way that I wanted. And that meant doing a lot of things that had always been on my list of only alcoholics do this. And I felt like for the longest time, nobody in the world knew what an alcoholic was but me, because people kept thinking I was. And I knew that I wasn't. So obviously, any doctor who said, well, actually you fit all the criteria, you need to revise your criteria. You don't know anyone who drinks. Everyone drinks like this. Gosh, what was I going to say about that? I don't know. But it was so important to me that I be able to control the story, that I be able to control what people knew about me. I felt like I had 2 options. I could be known, or I could be loved. And those were the only 2 things. You couldn't do both. If somebody really knew me, they couldn't care about me. And if somebody really cared about me, I had to keep them from knowing what I was really like at all costs, which, as you can imagine, sucked a lot. I believed sincerely that anybody who was reasonably intelligent knew that life was a joke, that anything that made life seem meaningful, or doing good work, or connecting with people, or living a life that mattered at all, was just a joke, because the universe was a horrible, horrible joke on the rest of us. So anyone who was reasonably smart would know that, and anyone who knew that would be full of despair, and anyone who was full of despair would drink like I did. So anyone who was remotely intelligent drank exactly like I did. I didn't really think that. And I thought this while attending an evangelical Christian college in suburban Los Angeles, which went about as well as you can imagine. That's also where I met my first girlfriend. They did not love that. And that was really helpful for me, because then I got to say, like, I am a victim. Like, they are kicking me out. I'm going to lose my job. And it was just like, you chose to go here. How interesting that now you're bothered by it. And that really set me off on a path where, people talk about it goes from like fun with problems to just problems. And that's really when it went from fun with problems to just problems all the time. And I got to a point where I finally, I was so irritated when I had a spiritual experience. So irritating. Because I truly don't believe that I would have been able to come into these rooms without one. I kept doing things and having, I just thought I had really bad luck. Every one of them who drank like me, I just always got caught. And it sucked. But it wasn't my fault, and it didn't mean my drinking was different. I just had the worst luck. So it was like nothing could happen to me. I broke my right ankle 3 times in 4 years. I was in and out of the hospital. I kept driving drunk, even though I swore I never would again. And it was just like nothing bad enough could happen to me to convince me, yeah, you have a problem. It took a spiritual experience, and it took a period of complete demoralization. I couldn't leave the house. I was sleeping on the floor in my parents' bedroom, not even in their house. Like I couldn't go to the living room. And I was so devastated, and I was so frustrated at the idea of having to turn to any kind of higher power, because family of ministers, I was done with higher powers. Like I did that. But I was ready to die. And I'd never seen myself as that kind of person. I always thought, yeah, I drink a lot, but I'm together, my job is going well, I'm funny, I'm interesting, I can handle this. And I couldn't handle anything. I couldn't have a conversation with my mother. I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't talk to people. I couldn't do anything. And I had a spiritual experience, and it pissed me off. And then I spent a week in between the last time I had a drink, which was alone in my car, crying, eating a cheeseburger. I was driving home drunk from a friend's house, and I was yelling at myself for driving drunk, and I said I never would again. And I said, okay, I'll go home, and tomorrow I'll change. But first I stopped and got a cheeseburger. Which is just so sad. It wasn't even a good cheeseburger. And then I spent the next week researching every alternative to AA that there was. Got to a point where I said, okay, fine, I'm going to go to a meeting. So I went to a meeting, and I was terrified. It was in, I got lost on the way, and there were people there, and they were all talking to each other. Thank you very much. I didn't like that. And I didn't like that as soon as I walked in, and I heard somebody talking who was very different from me and had a very life experience that I heard my story when he spoke. That was so devastating, and I was also so grateful because it was finally okay, I am ready to connect to another human person, even if it is for 2 seconds, and then I can leave. And my sponsor found me, and she came over and she said something, I assume. I don't remember what she said. And we met the next day, and she just kind of kept showing up in my life, so that's how I found a sponsor, and I'm so grateful for that because I think without that, I probably would have tried to stay as close to the back of the room as possible and left a lot. And she doesn't, you can't do that. And I'm so grateful for that. And I've been sober now for a little over 13 months. And I can look people I'm looking at all of you guys in the eyes with my eyes. That's crazy to me. I can say things I'm not at a point yet where I'm good at telling the truth all the time, but I can stop and say, I just lied. And I had to do that with my sponsor. 4 months into my sobriety, when I was so I'll do anything to be sober. And she said, I want you to make a God box. And I said, not crafts. I'm ready to do crafts. I'm an entrepreneur. I don't do crafts. And I lied. I told her I made one and I didn't. I didn't want to go buy tape and get a shoebox. I was what is that, 4th grade? I'm not going to do that. Because I still couldn't see. I couldn't see what doing what I said I was going to do and following instructions had to do with stopping drinking. Turns out a lot. Spoiler alert. And she was great. She's, when I said I had, she was just kind of that's really interesting. and then just let me stew in it. And I called her back like 4 days later. Not the same day, guys. And I said, I lied, I didn't make a box. And she said, I know. It was very clear to me. And I was like, what do I do now? And she's like, make a box. I had to go to the craft store, and I had to go buy scissors, and I had to buy tape, and I had to cut pictures out of magazines. That may or may not be something your sponsor asks of you. But it weirdly felt really good to make that stupid box, because it felt good to say, I lied. Now you know me a little bit. And it was such a great example of, she knew me better, and she loved me better for it. Because those two things had never gone hand in hand for me before. I'd never felt more known and more loved at the same time. And that to me is what this program is all about. So much more than just not drinking. That there are people who want to know me on a daily basis, and they want to know me better, and that honesty is the way to do that, and that honesty is the key to keeping me not just not drinking, but glad to be alive, helpful to other people, able to function and sleep in a bed in my own house that is not my parents' floor. It's huge, and I couldn't have done it at all without a sponsor and without this program, and I'm so grateful for all that, and I think that's 10 minutes. Thanks for being the first people to listen to me.
Now I'd like to turn the meeting over to our main speaker for the night, Blair.
I'm an alcoholic. My name is Blair.
Hey, Blair.
Anybody been to an international convention?
Yeah.
Oh, good. So you know what they're like. In 1985, I went to my first one. I had just gotten out here, and there was a lot of shit going on. And there was 44,000 people at that convention. I went to the one in Montreal in 1985, and the thing that really got me, I was gotten through the whole convention. It was just miracle after miracle after miracle. The thing that got me was in the very beginning, when there's this stadium, the Olympic Stadium that holds 50,000 people, and all 44,000 people are in this stadium, and the first guy comes up on the stage, and he says his name, and he's an alcoholic. And all those people said that. So picture this room 500 times. So, I'm an alcoholic. My name is Blair.
Hi, Blair.
I tried to picture it. You didn't quite make it, but it felt good. It felt really good. My sobriety date is March 1st, 1975. I have a home group. It's the Eaton group in Hayward. It meets on Friday night at 8 o'clock. There's a few people with about my sobriety and a few people with months and less than a year, and not anybody in between. So if you'd like to find a home group, and you can come to my group and fill in the gap between us, old timers and newbies. My father's father was boyhood friends with Hemingway. And so, my father grew up trying to emulate Hemingway. So my youth was filled with fishing, drinking, writing stories, drinking, boating, drinking, living in the islands, drinking, and more drinking. So you get the idea. In 1956, I was 6 years old. I was at the Blue Marlin Club in Bimini. Anybody know Bimini? It's the closest island to the mainland of the United States. Little teeny island. This Blue Marlin Club is this huge club. And it's all marble everywhere, and it's high-end, and it's really nice. And my dad's at the bar, and he keeps sending me over to the Planter's Punch Bowl. So, anybody know what Planter's Punch is?
Oh, yeah.
3 different kinds of rum, 3 different kinds of juice, 3 different kinds of liqueur, and it tastes like juice. You can just drink it. And I was 6 years old, so when I went and got him one, I was a good alcoholic already. I got me one too. And I think it only took a couple of those for me to learn everything I've learned for the rest of my drinking career. And our drinking careers are about the same length of time, by the way. I learned that after a couple of drinks, you're the life of the party. I mean, everybody at the bar is laughing at this little 6-year-old and whatever I'm doing, you know. And then I needed the bathroom, and I knew the bathroom was down over here, and it was a set of marble stairs. And they just went down and down and down, and they were big and wide. And I went down the first 2 or 3 stairs, and then tripped and fell all the way down those stairs. And I got to the bottom of the stairs, and I looked back up, and I went, it didn't hurt. And, you know, I used alcohol that way for my entire tenure of being able to drink. Relieving pain, most of it emotional pain. And, of course, the next thing I learned, and I learned this over and over and over and over again, is alcohol can make you projectile vomit. I was... One of the other stories of my early sobriety, and my early drinking, most of my drinking happened when I was young. So I don't have a lot of, I was not arrested, I didn't get a DUI. But trust me, I drank a lot. Being raised in the Bahamas, there's no drinking age in the Bahamas. They had beer machines. So every hotel had beer machines. So I could go to the front desk and say, I lost my money in the soda machine at age 15 or 16 years old. And they'd give me the money that I didn't really lose in the soda machine. They'd give it to me. And I'd go over to the beer machine and get a beer. And I could do that, hotel, all day until I got my fix, you know. So it was free alcohol, and it was no drinking age, and, it was the Bahamas. I do remember we came stateside a little bit, and the one drunk I remember in the States, I was 13 years old, and me and my buddy had stolen a bunch of beer from the local store and drank them, and I'm riding home on my bicycle. And my bicycle would only go about 50 feet, and then it would have this spectacular crash. And I'd pick that bicycle up, and I'd stand there, and I'd look at it. All the parts are good, you know, and I get back on it. It looked like it would work right, and I'd ride another 50 feet and it crashed. And, you know, I didn't know. I was already in the alcohol haze stage then. I didn't know that was alcohol. I still thought it was the bike until I got sober years later. Somehow, I managed to make it through to college. I went to a year of college. I did try and switch a little bit in college because most of the people I was hanging around with there were smoking, you know. But it never really worked for me. I mean, I have a couple of drugs in my story, but for the most part, they didn't work. I always went back to alcohol. I had thousands of people in my life saying, Blair, if you just smoke pot and not drink. So I tried, but, you know, it wouldn't. In 1969, I came home from the 1 year I went to college after high school, and I arrived at the family home, and my father was being coaxed into the family car by my mother with a bottle of vodka. And I show up, and she says, "Oh, Blair, thank God you're here. We got to take Dad to rehab, you know." And so I helped coax him into the car, and I'm going to take him from. We were living in Freeport, Grand Bahama at the time. I'm going to take him from there. The plan is take him from there to Miami International Airport, put him on a plane to Hazelden, right? And so I'm in my Bahamas clothes, you know, and it's in the middle of the winter, and I fly with him to Miami and go to put him on the plane in Miami, and they said, no, we can't let this drunk bastard get there by himself. So I had cashed in his round-trip ticket for 2 one-ways and flew to Hazelden. So when I was 19 years old, I was in Hazelden. I knew what it was about. My father went through a little bit of recovery. He never quite got this program. But he did go to AA, so I saw AA rooms when I was that age. And my biggest mystery is knowing that and then arriving at acute alcoholism just 5 years later. I got sober in 75, and that was in 69, 70, so it's 5 years. And during that period of time, I don't know why none of that popped up, but it didn't pop up until I used up everybody and everything. And like we all did, we used up everybody and everything. So in 1970, I found a woman that was willing to marry me. God knows why. I was already in an alcoholic haze at that time, but she married me, and then by 73, there was 2 little babies around. I have no idea how. And just about that time, my drinking had started taking a turn for the worse, and I became a blackout drinker. And the last 2 or 3 years of my drinking, I would black out very regularly. And I was just a beer drinker. I really worked hard at trying to maintain this balance of not being drunk but not being sick. And I drank, if I was awake, I had a can of beer in my hand. I drank about a case of beer a day, but I spread it out during the day, so I was just even. But I managed to break through that and get into a blackout on a fairly regular basis, and for whatever reason, when I came out of that blackout, there was always somebody in front of me, and they were bleeding or I was bleeding. And sometimes it was people I didn't know, sometimes it was friends, sometimes it was family. So, very soon after that, feelings are like children, Don't let them drive the car. But you can't put them in the trunk. And that's kind of my problem with talking to you guys, because I want to tell you what really happened. When I tell you what really happened, it gets to that point, And I don't want to not get to that point, but I still want to be able to talk. My first year in sobriety was just incredible. I walked in the doors. My wife. Well, first I lost my last job. I decided we were living in Miami on a boat, and I decided that Miami was the problem. This big city was the problem. It wasn't me. It was never me. And so what I did is I drove out of Miami and I drove north until everything on either side of the road vanished. It was just woods. And then I found a place to put my boat. I found the next marina and I brought my boat up there and I went, now everything's going to be fine. That lasted, I don't know, I think that was only 6 months before I walked in the doors. And the only job I could find in my last 6 months of drinking was delivering the Miami Herald. So at 24 years old, I was a paper boy. My last job, I was a paper boy. And I was fired. And that didn't stop me drinking. But what did stop me drinking, what got through the haze, and wives need to know this, the only thing that got me through was when my wife said, you're a no good, fucking drunk, get out. And I went, what? I'm okay. And so at 24, I did the only thing I could think of doing as I went to visit my mother. Mom. Well, Mom had been dealing with Dad all these years, and she had Al-Anon behind her, and so I was really fun. So she said, Blair, you're an alcoholic just like your dad, and what you need is AA, and there's a meeting in Delray Beach, and it's right down the street. I said, okay, Mom, but it's been like 2 hours since I've had a drink, and so I'm probably going to stop. My drinking MO, I decided that I didn't want to get caught with a lot of beer in my car, I guess, even though my car was filled, the whole back of the car was filled with empty beer cans. And so what I would do is I would, at every place, every little convenience store, 7-Eleven, whatever, Special K, whatever it is, they have cold beer. So they were my icebox. So I would drink one beer at a time. And it got to the point where I could not pass one of those. If I'd gotten one and I'd driven away, and there was another one down there, go. Go when you get another one. I don't know what kind of drinking I did, but that was the kind of drinking I did. Anyway, I told her, I said, I'm not going to be able to make it to this meeting without stopping. And she said, well, Blair, just do your best job, and And, put blinders on when you go by these stores and go straight to the meeting. And when you get there, if you're bad enough, they'll probably get you a drink. They'll get you a drink there. So I'm heading from my first AA meeting, thinking I'm going to get a drink. You know how these storefront meetings are? Where you don't really go in the front door because the front door is right there and the desk is right here, and everybody comes in the back door. That's only for people that don't know. Kind of like my front door at home. If you come in my front door, you don't know me. Because everybody that knows me comes in the kitchen door, right? So I walk in the front door of my first AA meeting, and there's the chair people right there and all the people. And they're all women. And they're all over 60. I didn't even get in the door. Close the door. And this is going to be one of those ones. I can't help it. I'm sorry. I walked around the building where my car was. And because they didn't give me a drink, and it was all women, and I didn't belong there, I knew I was fucked. I knew I was completely fucked. And my emotions got it. Before I could get in my car, my emotions got it. And I crumpled in the parking lot of that meeting. And one of you, I'm crumpled, I'm not looking up. One of you, a guy waiting for the women's meeting to get over. Put his hand on my shoulder and said, "You're in the right place. And there's a meeting after this. And, I'm here for you." And, I'd love to know who that guy was. But you guys have saved my life every single time, all the way along. And most of the time, I look back, I don't know what your name was, but it was something you said. The last thing that I heard in a meeting that really struck me was in an Island Fellowship meeting with this guy. It's scary. Hi, Gary. And this woman, it was just one of you in the crowd, but what she said was very simply, she said, I'm in this sincerely. And I am. I'm in this sincerely. I didn't do a great job in my first decade of sobriety. I got here in 1985 with 10 years of sobriety and 3 divorces and a bunch of jobs, and the only cars I had 3 cars, and all 3 of them together were not worth $50. 10 years sober. Guy came to the meeting a little while ago, and he was upset because the only transportation he had was a girl's bicycle, and he didn't like it because it was a girl's bicycle. I said, well, stick around, keep coming to meetings, don't drink, get a sponsor, blah, 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 and, get you a better girl's bicycle. I was a slow learner. When I was about 3 months sober, I was in a meeting, and you guys were talking about material possessions and how material possessions can get you drunk. And by 3 months sober, I'd like to tell you how I got that 3 months, because 90 meetings in 90 days is important for this group, right? So my 90 meetings in 90 days happened, was kind of the first miracle in my life, and after I stopped drinking. And so I'm 3 days sober. I go back to my mother's house, and my mother's remarried to another sober alcoholic, and he's got this plant business. So he goes, "Hey, Blair, do you want to go out in the Everglades and collect plants with me?" I said, "Fuck no." He says, well, I got this little target pistol, So this guy's been sober for a decade, and he knows I'm 3 days sober, and he's going to hand me a loaded weapon, Anyway, I said, yeah, that sounds like fun. So we go out off in the Everglades, and he goes and collects his plants, and I decide I'm going to shoot a pine cone out of a tree. Bang, 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 fill another clip, bang, 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 bang. Shooting blanks, bang, bang. Finally, I think I scared the one pine cone out of the tree. And I went, well, I'll be damned. And I lowered the gun. Well, I didn't know much about guns at the time, and I lowered the gun with my finger on the trigger. Bam! Bullet went in here, came out here. Well, they cut it out there. And so, you really can't make this stuff up. So after I finished with the hospital and the police reports and all that stuff, I go back to this Delray Beach meeting that I'd gone to. And, I'm a cripple now, and so I'm at home and I can't drive my car. I have to put my foot up on the chair. And every single day, sometimes twice a day, one of you would come to my house, pick me up, take me to the meeting. And I put my foot up on the desk. And, for a 24-year-old, I got well physically very quickly. And I know without a shadow of a doubt, if it hadn't been for that, I would not have stuck around. I'd have gotten well and gone out. You'd have seen me at age 60 going, oh, shit, that was a hell of a run, huh? Well, I'm 63 now, but, I didn't drink for those years, and it's probably good. It's probably good that I didn't drink for those years. So back to the 3 months of sobriety. Now, I've been sober for almost 40 years, and we're at 3 months of sobriety, and I've got 15 minutes. So. You get what you get, right? So 3 months sober, I'm in this meeting, and they're talking about material possessions, and I walk out of this meeting, and at the time, my only means of transportation is a 500cc, 2-stroke, 3-cylinder Kawasaki motorcycle. This thing's like a 140-mile-an-hour machine. It's the best mechanical thing I've ever owned in my life, and there was not a doubt in my mind I was madly in love with this thing. And I went, I can get drunk, and I really knew that wasn't a good idea already. This wasn't a good idea. So I went to bed, and at the time I wasn't praying much, and I wasn't meditating at all, and so I did my very best job of going to bed that night. And at least thinking about this dilemma. And I got up the next morning, and that motorcycle was gone. It was stolen. And I laughed for 2 days, and I've laughed hundreds of times. God just, it's incredible what He does. I was 6 months sober. I found this group. The agape groups of Alcoholics Anonymous, made up of a lot of young people, and I was a young person, so I fit right in. Matter of fact, Delray Beach group was made up of people that were, 2 or 3 times my age, so I actually went looking for a young people's group and found this group in Coral Gables, and they had retreat weekends every 3 months, and so it was just, my first year of sobriety had so much going on in it. So I'm in a meeting at 4 months sober. This is one of those ones that just hits you in the back of the head, and you guys have all had it. I'm in this meeting, and I'm about 4 months sober, and I'm after the meeting, we're breaking up, and we're talking in little groups, and my group is talking away, and this guy, Ocean, that hangs around in the meeting, he wears robes, and he's got long hair, and he's got beads, and he did the macrame curtains in the meeting room, and his eyes have got that look in him that he's like out there. He did a little bit more than alcohol, maybe. Anyway, so he's in the back of the room, and he laughs, and I say to the group that I'm in, I go, when Ocean laughs, he's just completely nuts, right? And so that group breaks up and another group forms, and I'm in this other group, and Ocean's still there, and I'm in this other group, and somebody says something funny, and I laugh, and somebody in the group says, "Hey Blair, when you laugh, you sound just like Ocean." When I was, I really was a slow learner. When I was 6 months sober, I was at a retreat weekend. I had already decided that it was perfectly okay for me to fly. I've got a private pilot's license. It's single-engine land. It's not commercial, but I have a private pilot's license. And I decided it was okay for me to fly a stolen twin-engine plane to Caracas, Venezuela. That was my best taking 6 months sober. So I was going to leave this retreat weekend Saturday night, and the weekend goes through till Sunday morning, and the culmination of this group gathering this retreat weekend is the Sunday morning God as you do or don't understand a meeting. And it's this big thing, you know. And I'm going to skip out on that because God's not in my life a whole lot, you know. I'm still figuring the odds and doing a really poor job of it. So somebody asked me to be one of the 2 speakers for that morning meeting, and I didn't fly the plane to Caracas. And that's all it took. That was another saving Blair. When I was about 8 months sober, I found that there was in this group there was an AA guru. Is there any AA gurus in the room? Okay, leave. He had a daughter, and my best thinking, 8 months sober, was, you know, this looks like a lot of work. Looking at all these steps, getting a sponsor and all this stuff. How about if I just get in with the AA guru's daughter, and then I'll be in with the in crowd, and I don't have to do all this work, you know, I can skate by. So I got divorced a year sober, and I was with that woman, the AA guru's daughter, for the next 4 years. And that was my second divorce. My third divorce, I decided, well, maybe I should just marry a friend. And so at the time, there was a woman in my life that had gone to Al-Anon for a long time, and for whatever reason, she thought that was a good idea too. So that lasted another 4 years. So I found out I was kind of good for 4 years, but actually it wasn't 4 years because, you know, when you get divorced, there has to be at least a bad year. And of course, there had to be a honeymoon time, so maybe I'm only good for 2 years. Anyway, I got here in 1985, 10 years sober, 3 divorces, 3 junk cars, and over this past 30 years here, you guys have helped me out. All of you guys have helped me out. I did remarry. I've been with the same woman for that 30 years. I did break my stint of jobs. I've been at the same job for 30 years. As a matter of fact, I'm retiring the end of this year. I work with a great bunch of men. We go out to the South Pacific and we score intercontinental ballistic missiles. So it's a very interesting job. I'm sorry I'm leaving it. But I'll have more time to come and visit you guys, I guess. I have 10 minutes left. I could look at my notes. Do you think I should look at my notes? What
You can whenever you want.
Okay. There's, what did I say? I don't know what I said. You know what you do, if you're speaking a bunch of people, if you're speaking in front of a bunch of people, it might not be a bad idea to make some notes. And I thought I was going to look at it. Yeah. I don't know what they say. I do know that I have a 20-plus-year-old granddaughter that loves me. A 20-plus-month-old granddaughter that loves me. 3 grandsons that love me. Tons of family and friends. My life is filled with really, really good people. I volunteer with the Alameda County Sheriff's Department, a great group of men. And, you know, I don't tell them I'm an alcoholic. A couple of them, when they become my friends, know that. But we get along well, and they're good men. The men that I work with are good men. And none of that could ever happen because I was not a good man. I was a mess. And you guys made me a good man. You know, when I left my first wife and I went to my sponsor, crying to my sponsor that I'd lost my children, he said, it's okay because you come to meetings, you don't drink in between, you get a sponsor, you work the steps, and they always come looking for you. The kids, they always come looking for you. And if you do all that, when they do come looking for you, they'll find a nice guy. And they came looking for you, and they found a nice guy. The one set of words that I like are not in the big book, and they're called the man in the glass. Does anybody know the man in the glass? So I'd like to give you the man in the glass, and then I'll shut up. When you get what you want with your struggle for self and the world makes you king for a day, just go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what that man has to say. For it's not for your father or mother or spouse whose judgment upon you is past. The one whose verdict counts most in your life is the one staring back from the glass. You may fool the whole world on the pathway of years and get pats on the back as you pass, but your final reward will be heartaches and tears if you cheated the man in the glass. This set of life values make it so you don't have to do that. Look in the glass. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Sobercast is ad-free, and we'd like your help in order to keep it that way. So if you'd like to help us be self-supporting by pledging $1 or $2 a month, visit Sobercast.com and look for the donate links. Thank you very much.